Hi everyone, welcome to the 2019-20 CIP Grants Kickoff. My name is Colleen. I work in the CIP Grants office along with my colleague Chelsea, and every day we're there Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time to help you take advantage of all of our CIP grant opportunities. The purpose of this presentation is to go through the CIP grant opportunities for 2019-20. We're also going to briefly touch on resources and where you can find all of this information online. Basically, the point of this is to get you ready to use grants in your community starting April 1st, 2019. So let's dive in. Here's what the 2019-20 CIP grants year looks like. The Elks National Foundation will allocate more than $13 million to fund the Community Investments Program. Here's what's in store for this year. We have a brand new $2,000 Spotlight Grant that will be offered this year. The Spotlight Grant is to help lodges shine a light on family literacy and veterans experiencing homelessness. Beacon grants are now $2,500 with a $500 increase. And the Gratitude Grant can now be used to supersize other grant budgets. What you'll see on here, or what you won't see on here, is the Anniversary Grant. We have discontinued the Anniversary Grant opportunity. The board and the Elks National Foundation felt that 2 years of celebrating the 150th anniversary was good, and now we're using that money to help fund the new Spotlight Grant. Other things that remain the same from last year, the Gratitude Grant eligibility continues to be for the year previous. This year, that means if the lodge met the per member giving goal to the ENF of $4.75 in 2018-19, that will automatically make you eligible for the 2019-20 Gratitude Grant. Also new this year, we're decreasing the number of promised grants available to 300. All the information about grants can be found on our CIP Grants dashboard, much like last year. It's the place to find everything, including applications and our online final report. So let's go through all of our grant opportunities. I'm going to touch briefly on each of these colored pictures and tell you a little bit more about what each grant means. Let's start first with the yellow Gratitude Grant. The Gratitude Grant is the only CIP grant tied to the per member goal for giving. And as just mentioned on the slide previously, that means if the lodge met the goal in 2018-19, you'll be eligible for a 2019-20 Gratitude Grant. Gratitude grants are our most flexible grant opportunity. They can be used for any donation in the community to a nonprofit organization, as well as for any charitable project the lodge would like to put on. You can split the Gratitude Grant between multiple projects, and there's not any one population in need that you need to serve. Again, this is the easiest grant. It's the most flexible, and it can be a donation. Let's move on to our blue Gratitude Grants. Gratitude Grants are for ongoing charitable activities that are lodge-led. Ideally, what we want to fund is a successful charitable program that has active elk involvement year after year. Beacon grants cannot be used as donations of funds or supplies. If the project you have in mind might include a check presentation, it is not a good fit for a Beacon grant. Beacon grants need to be used for one charitable project and must focus on helping one population in need. Every lodge is eligible for a Beacon grant. We have enough money in our budget to fund one $2,500 Beacon grant for every lodge in the country. You do not need to meet the per member giving goal. All right, let's move on to the red Promise Grants. Promise Grants are specifically for youth activities. There are only 300 available, and they're awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. They're $2,500 for active elk projects that serve youth in need. Promise grants cannot be a donation of funds or supplies. They must have that opportunity for elks and youth to get together and must be an activity. You do not need to meet the per member giving goal to get a Promise grant, but you do need to make sure you apply early as there's only 300 available. These grants are for $2,500. As we move right, we get to our Freedom Grants. Freedom Grants are administered by the Elks National Veteran Service Commission. This year, there are 325 Freedom Grants available at $2,000 to help fund veterans programs in your community. What we mean by that is active Elk-led veterans programs that go beyond a donation of funds or supplies. Freedom Grants are available on a first-come, first-served basis, much like the Promise Grant. If you have any further questions about the Freedom Grant, I highly recommend watching the Freedom Grant webinar and also reaching out to the Elks National Veteran Service Commission to get some advice on applying for one. Again, active elk involvement is key to receiving a Freedom Grant. As a side note, you might have heard me say that a lot about a lot of our grants. Donations simply don't qualify for anything outside of the Gratitude Grant. CIP grants are meant to help your lodge do more and are meant to help get your lodge out in the community, raise your lodge's profile, and hopefully inspire others to join. Let's move on to the bottom two grants. The first is our Impact Grant. That's a large-scale service project grant for up to $10,000, which is great. It's a huge commitment for the lodge and, of course, needs to be used for something beyond a donation of funds or supplies. We funded 67 Impact Grants last year. We work from a pool of $500,000, and we ask that lodges complete the two-step Impact Grant process. First, the lodge needs to fill out an impact intent, which opens the same day as all of our other grant applications. If invited to the full application based on the information in your intent, the lodge will be able to fill out the impact grant application and then move on to judging by our committee. Impact grants are highly competitive. If you have any questions or want to run an idea past our office, please reach out. The last and newest grant opportunity is our Spotlight Grant. It's a $2,000 grant for every lodge. You do not need to meet the per member giving goal, much like the rest of our grants outside the Gratitude Grant. And again, this is an opportunity to shine a light on two important issues that are in every American community in one way or another: family literacy and veterans experiencing homelessness. We're going to go into detail about the Spotlight Grant in a couple slides. I'd like to go over the CIP grant basics. The information in green pertains to every grant that we give away. Simply put, CIP grants are for charitable projects, and they should follow IRS-defined charitable categories. You can read them there on the screen, but it's very important that you know that this is what governs our ability to give grants to lodges. Grants are not meant to help the lodge members and their families. They are not meant to help build or update lodge property. They need to be used in a charitable way and follow these guidelines. And again, that is for every grant that we had just talked about on the slide previous. Something that I like to say is good intentions are not enough with CIP grants. These grants are to be used to fill a real charitable need, not just be a nice thing to do. This is your chance to make a real impact in your community. Make sure you're practical, considerate, and well-informed before you apply. Make sure you plan your grant project around what you'd hope to accomplish. And I'll talk a little bit about some resources you can use to help do just that in a couple slides. So we were at green light go, and now we're at red light stop. These grant basics apply again to every CIP grant. Grants may not be used for the following: fundraisers, general community events, poster and/or essay contests, to benefit the lodge members and their families, to fund state major projects or national elk programs. CIP grants may not be used for scholarships, youth awards nights, appreciation dinners or meals, lodge maintenance and/or repairs, or the hoop shoot or soccer shoot. If you apply to use a CIP grant in any of these ways, you will receive a follow-up email from us. The CIP's grown a lot since we began, with the intention of helping Elks expand their charitable activities. We continually encourage lodges to think about ways to use grants for new active projects if possible. And again, you cannot use grant funds for any of those activities that I have just talked about. All right, so now you know a little bit more about the do's and don'ts, as well as the differences between all of our CIP grant opportunities, but where do you find them? If you're listening and you're a lodge secretary, you have automatic access to our CIP grant applications through CLMS and through the CIP website. As you can see on the screenshots to the right, the first is for CLMS. If you're a lodge secretary, that's where you can find the grants dashboard. Again, the grants dashboard is where the application lives, as well as the reports. The bottom screenshot is where you can find the grants dashboard through our website. Our website URL is elks.org/CIP. If you have any questions about your grant status throughout the year, this is a great place to check first. And again, applications open online April 1st. Now, if you're a lodge secretary listening in and you say, I just simply don't have time for this. I don't have time with all of my other duties to also apply for and report on grants. We have a perfect solution. The CIP Grants Coordinators. The Lodge Secretary has the ability to appoint anyone from the Lodge as a CIP Grants Coordinator, of course with the ER's approval. And the Grant Coordinator can access online grant applications through the CIP website using their elks.org username and password. So again, that screenshot on the bottom in the previous slide, that's where grant coordinators can find the CIP grant website. We ask that coordinators be computer savvy and that they understand the grant guidelines. Lodges can have more than one, and you can appoint one at any time. And again, a good reminder is a coordinator should ideally be involved with the grant from start to finish. Go to enf.elks.org/grants-coordinators for more information on how to appoint a grants coordinator. It's a simple process through CLMS and is instant. So as soon as you appoint someone, they automatically have access. And just a reminder for secretaries that might be hesitant to give this responsibility to another person, just know that the CIP Grants Coordinator will not have access to CLMS, but rather just the grant application dashboard. All right, shifting gears a little bit. As promised, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the Spotlight Grant, which is our newest grant opportunity here at the CIP. Again, it's a $2,000 available to all lodges to help run projects that shine a light on family literacy and veterans experiencing homelessness. Much like all of our smaller grant opportunities, the application deadline is December 31st, 2019, and the project must be complete by March 31st, 2020. So what do we mean by shine a light on family literacy and veterans experiencing homelessness? The great new thing about Spotlight Grants is that we give you the roadmap. We give you the tools and the project plan, and then you implement it in your lodge's community. So in order to qualify for a Spotlight Grant, the lodge must choose from one of 7 project plans, and the lodge must run the project as outlined. The 7 project plans we have are as follows. We have the Warm Welcome to the Library. We have our Laundromat program. We have Community Baby Shower. We have Imagination Library. We have Welcome Home. We have Adopt a Haven. And we have Stand Downs. As you can see, there are 4 projects for literacy, 3 projects for veterans experiencing homelessness. More information can be found on the Spotlight Grant website. I would highly recommend taking a look at each, learning about the project plan, and seeing if it's something that can fit within your lodge's community. Another thing to keep in mind about the Spotlight Grant is they must be active. Absolutely no donations. This is your lodge's chance to, again, be active in the community and to help shine a light on those very important issues that almost every American community faces. So again, the lodge must choose from one of the 7 project plans and implement it in your community. Every lodge has the opportunity to apply for a Spotlight grant. All right, so some deadline reminders. The first, the top, those are all the deadlines for every grant except the impact grant. As you can see, April 1 is when the applications open, December 31st is when they close, and the funds must be used and the project complete by March 31st, 2020. For those of you keeping score at home, that's back to a full year of grant use. All right, and going back to the top, we have March 31st, 2019 as the 2018-19 project completion date. So make sure that you finish up your old grants before you apply for new ones. I'd like to also draw your attention to the final report form deadlines. Again, our final reporting process is now online. Final reports are due 30 days after the anticipated date of grant completion that you list on your application. And 60 days after that date is when the lodge is locked out of applying until that report is turned in. Obviously, we understand that things change. So if at any point in this process you need to change that anticipated date of completion, simply reach out to our office and we'll help you out. But again, 2019-20 grant opportunities open April 1st, close December 31st, and you must use the funds by March 31st of next year. So you might be asking yourself, where can I find all this information in a succinct, nice booklet? Well, I have the answer. It's the CIP Field Guide. We sent 2 copies to the Lodge Secretary this year. We sent 1 copy to the Lodge ER, and it's posted online at the CIP Resources page, which I'll show you in a second. It's a great resource, and feel free to print out as many copies as you'd like. We'll also have some copies available in St. Louis if you're going to Grand Lodge Convention, and any physical copies that we have after Grand Lodge will be available for order through our office. It's a great resource that outlines every grant opportunity and also has a neat tear-out calendar that you just saw on the last slide, so you can keep yourself on track. So enf.elks.org/CIP resources is where you can find all this information posted. As I had mentioned, this is also where you can find the field guide. If you look on the left-hand side, the field guide tab is at the bottom. You can also look at your lodge's grant participation and participation of every other lodge in the country through the CIP participation report, as you can see on your screen. This is also where you can find the grants coordinator information like I had talked about earlier, and more webinars just like this one. I highly recommend looking at the CIP resources webinar after this. It outlines even more where you can find all this information and goes through other resources that you might find helpful throughout the year. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions or need some guidance, make sure you reach out to us. You can call our office at 773-755-4730 or email lodgegrants@elks.org. On behalf of Chelsea, I'd just like to say we're very much looking forward to this grant year, especially with the Spotlight grant. We believe this is a great opportunity for lodges to do even more to their community, and we're really looking forward to seeing how lodges take these opportunities and run with them. So thank you so much and have a great day.